Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We are gathered here tonight to remember the life and work of our dear Gail Hirsch Rosenthal and to celebrate the first night of Hanukkah. The story of Hanukkah took place 2,200 years ago in Jerusalem. The Syrian Greek Empire had taken control of the land of Israel, and they made it forbidden for Jews to practice the Jewish religion. And the Jewish people fought back. They fought for the religious freedom, and they were victorious, and they were able to re-enter the Holy Temple and light the menorah. The message of the menorah is that even in a time where you look around the world and it seems dark and there's a lot of hatred, we must strive to add a little bit more light and light up the world. And that is what Gail's life was all about. Every single day, she made this world a better, brighter place. In the Talmud, an ancient Jewish book that describes and teaches about Jewish life and practice, there's a discussion. What is the correct way to light the menorah? One school of thought is you start by lighting 8 candles and then you make your way down to 1 candle, because that way you can tell how many days are left to the holiday. The other school of thought, the other approach is you start with 1 and you increase every day until you get to 8. And of course, that is what we do. But the Talmud explains the reasoning why we chose that method. Because when it comes to adding light, we must always increase. We may never decrease. We may never go backwards. And that was Gail's approach. She was never satisfied with what she did yesterday. She was always focused on what more can I do today. And she did so much every single day, and she never stopped. Let us all take a lesson from the menorah. Let us all take a lesson from Gail and ask ourselves, what can I do today to bring a little bit more light into this world? We are going to light the menorah. We are going to ask Toby, Gail's daughter, and family to please light the menorah, but first to share a few words.
Hi, everyone. Chanukah Sameach. Thank you all for coming to this. Gail would have just been thrilled. We'll have to get a head count of how many people are here. We will add this to our bragging rights, right, about how many came this year, and we'll have to double it, right, for next year as well. So friends, colleagues, family, friends who are colleagues and family, right? We are all connected, and she would have absolutely loved this celebration as well. And as you will hear and see, she loved celebrating all the good stuff. And Hanukkah also is and was her favorite holiday because you could really wear your Hanukkah sweater. And you could wear your dresses and be silly, and you'll see on the slide deck inside some of her best stuff was during Hanukkah too. So I am so glad that we have students with us, because also students are and kids are what drove Gail to do what she did every day until her day here, her final day here, which was just so amazing. That's what I know she would have wanted to. So our students will help us to light the menorah tonight, and we will begin with that too. And I know Rabbi Meir will explain to us what we'll do. And in Gail style also, we will stay for the Ma'ot Tzur. If you know, you know. Gail would have insisted as well on this. So please, if you need a sheet, there are some around. We will pass some too. So just the teacher and me says, raise your hand if you need. I will take one too. We'll start that way. We'll send some this way as well. Cousin Michael. Yes, perfect.
The menorah is lit with a special candle, the leader candle called the Shamash. And we'd like to invite our Jewish student leaders, the students of Chabad and Hillel, to please come to the front to light the lead candle and to hand it off to Toby and family. It's also right here on the paper. Hand it to Toby first. Nah, come sing the blessings up here. Guys, come sing the blessings. We are going to sing the blessings all together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim ha'em bizman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'ehyanu v'higyanu bazman hazeh. Sorry. Are we saying, yeah? Okay.
Happy Hanukkah, everyone. Please join us as we continue with the remainder of the program inside the event room. There are certified kosher refreshments today, latkes for Hanukkah, jelly donuts. Enjoy. If anyone would like a menorah or candles to celebrate Hanukkah at home, Chabad is providing them free of charge. Please see me.
Hi, we're going to need to ask everyone to kindly sit down so we can begin the program, and the refreshments will remain out after the program so that if you haven't been able to partake, you'll be able to go back then. But we asked everybody to kindly take their seats at this point so we can begin the program. Good afternoon, friends and colleagues. Welcome to Stockton University's celebration of the work and legacy of Gail Hirsch Rosenthal, a true woman of valor. With us today are Gail's beloved family, her husband Bob, daughter Toby, son-in-law Ted, and grandchildren Hannah and Ariel. To you, we can only express our love and admiration for your beloved Gail. Gail was a long-standing and ardent leader here at Stockton University. Way back in 1991, President Vera King Ferris and the founding chairperson of the Holocaust Resource Center, Marcia Grossman, asked Gail to serve as the center's executive director. For the next 3 decades, Gail dedicated her professional life to Stockton University and the mission of the Holocaust Resource Center. For that dedication, we will be forever grateful, even in the sadness that I feel and share with many of you today. During this program, we will invite you to share some thoughts at a microphone that we will have here in the front, and that will come later. But we would like to begin the program by inviting, I guess he's still our new president here at Stockton University. I guess until we're a full semester in, you're still the new president, Dr. Joseph Bertolino, for some comments. President?
Thank you, Leo. Appreciate it very much. And good evening, everyone. Our faculty, our staff, our students, our alumni, and friends. My name is Joe Bertolino. I am the relatively new president of Stockton University, been here all of 5 months, and I had the privilege of meeting Gail, albeit briefly. Once you meet Gail, you could not forget her. And more importantly than that, once you visited the Holocaust Resource Center, she wouldn't let you forget that visit either. It was really incredible, the work that she engaged in, and just her presence and her demeanor in and of itself was just amazing. It was hard not to be drawn to her and not to be drawn to the work in which she engaged. I want to thank all of you for joining us today to honor Gail's legacy. I think that the presence here today demonstrates how much of an impact Gail has had on the Stockton community and how many lives she touched beyond our campus. I can't begin to tell you the number of emails, phone calls, and conversations that I have had just in the last few weeks. Folks who have pulled me aside to tell story after story after story to me about Gail and to those of us that are new to the institution. To Gail's relatives and friends, especially to Bob and Toby and Ted and Ariel and Hannah and Shoshana, I offer my deepest condolences and the condolences, respect, and love of the entire Stockton University community, including our Board of Trustees. I think that I can say with certainty that Gail exemplified, well, Gail was Stockton. In everything she did, in everything she said, in every breath that she took, she was Stockton, and Stockton was her. In so many wonderful ways, I would watch as she would find her way around campus, or individuals would find their way to the center, and the interaction, the love of not just the center, but the university and our students was palatable. She exemplified the best of Stockton and exemplified the values which we hold dear. Under Gail's careful guidance for more than 3 decades, the Holocaust Resource Center has grown to become the thriving resource and educational hub it is today, the largest in New Jersey and internationally recognized. Through her connections to the community, what began as just a single closet of oral histories of local Holocaust survivors grew to include a reading room, then expanded to include 2 classrooms, an exhibit room, and the Holocaust Survivors of South Jersey Research Room. It is extraordinary. Fittingly, that original room now bears her name. Gail played a key role in developing the Holocaust and Genocide Studies minor and the Masters of Arts in Holocaust and Genocide Studies. I will share with you that recently I had conversations with several religious leaders, and consistently they shared with me that our Holocaust Resource Center and our Holocaust and Genocide Studies program is one of the largest and one of the most prestigious in the country. And Gail is the main reason that that is so. She was instrumental in raising significant funds, building strong partnerships in support of the center, and helping to ensure its long future. But most importantly, Gail passionately and consistently championed our students. Where are the students in the room? Could you raise your hand? You are the reason we are here, and Gail loved you. Whether she was leading them on study tours to Europe and Israel to visit sites related to the Holocaust and Jewish history, building philanthropic relationships to secure scholarship funding, connecting students with local Holocaust survivors to keep their stories of resilience and rescue alive for future generations, or simply lending an ear and words of encouragement, there is no way to quantify the lasting impact Gail has made on Stockton. She was a teacher, a confidant, a supporter, and a friend. Indeed, her name has been mentioned so many times these past months as the world watches unimaginable suffering. We know hers would be a calming and comforting voice, especially to our students, with whom she was very proud and loved so dearly. I will never forget my first time stepping into the Holocaust Resource Center. We had only spoken a few times previously, but Gail greeted me like an old friend. I was immediately captivated by her passion and support of Stockton's mission. I knew I was in the presence of someone extraordinary, as she shared touching anecdotes and the many stories that echo within the center. I will also share with you that the very first scholarship agreement that I got to sign as the new president of Stockton was through Gail with some of our donors in the Holocaust Resource Center for the Holocaust Resource Center and for Jewish Studies, the very first one. And that was the last time I had the opportunity to see and interact with Gail. I will never forget that moment, as it is at the top of my list and a memory that I will have for life. I've reflected on the tour and the number of times that I am warmed by her memory. My relationship with Gail was far too short, but immensely meaningful. She has left an indelible mark on our community and will forever be remembered as someone whose heart beat for something bigger than self. Gail was a tireless advocate and oversaw more than 200 events just this year. Just this year. All sponsored by the Holocaust Research Center, reaching nearly 18,000 individuals. That is extraordinary. There is no question that her presence will be felt on campus and far beyond for many years to come. She is here with us. She is here with us. She is here with us. Thank you, Gail, for showing us what it truly means to make a difference. May we all carry on in Gail's memory, honoring the memories of the Holocaust and ensuring future generations hear the stories that need to be told. May her memory be a blessing.
Thank you, President Joe. Those were very, very meaningful comments to those of us who are involved with the Holocaust Resource Center. I have to say that we are very, very excited to see you as the new president of our beloved institution, and we look forward to working with you in the future to make Stockton, as well as the Resource Center, even greater and greater during your tenure as president. Our next speaker will be Dr. Michael Hayes, Professor Hayes. Many of you know Michael. You've heard him lecture. You've been on him with study tours. He's a remarkable person. He's working on the Survivors Project, which is another wonderful initiative at the Resource Center. And he just worked closely hand in hand with Gail for many, many years. So let us introduce Dr. Michael Hayes.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you, President Bartolino, for your words. You may have been one of the people who met Gail most recently. I'm one of the people here who has known her the longest, and I like to think, although I think that this is one of the things that made Gail such a wonderful and successful individual in everything that she undertook. I think that she gave that impression to just about everybody, that when you were with her, she was the person who was in your corner. She was with you, she was talking to you, she was listening to you. And so it's really with a very heavy heart, but also with immense, immense gratitude that I remember my friend, my dear friend and colleague, Gail Rosenthal. I met Gail to the month 28 years ago when I came to interview for a tenure-track position at Stockton, the one that I now hold. It was my first day on Stockton's campus, campus I'd actually never heard of before I had applied for the position. Stockton's stature has grown immensely. Gail was a big part of that. Of course, it's a team effort. But since then, 28 years ago, Gail and I have co-taught several courses. We worked together on multiple, sometimes major exhibitions, organizing workshops, excursions, and many other events. When I was still very green at the gills, only here a couple of years, and had already begun sort of smaller collaborations with Gail, she invited me on a trip to Israel, a place that I'd never been before, to co-lead a study tour that she had organized for students. During that experience, I got to know Gail fairly well, and one of the things that struck me very soon, very quickly, was that Gail had never been to Germany, a place that I know well, and where I also have roots. And as a result of that set of experiences, I decided that Gail was going to go with me to Germany, and we were going to delve into the ways that Germany has confronted and not confronted, and confronted well and confronted poorly, its Holocaust past, its dark past. So the following year in 2000, I put together that study tour on Holocaust and memory in Germany, and that was really the beginning of the intense collaboration that included about a dozen faculty-led trips that we co-led. It was probably, so this year we prepared, that as Gail was involved at the beginning and co-led, this year we prepared to co-lead with our colleague Tina Zappilli in political science, a study tour for 24 students to Germany that included something that was new for us, their participation in the International Model UN Conference in Erfurt, Germany. We got back less than 2 weeks ago, and I have to say that Gail passed away about a month before our departure. She was planning to go, and she wasn't obviously with us in person, but she was definitely with us in spirit. We spoke about her often. It was a trip that would not have occurred in the way that it did without Gail. It's just one of the latest and most important things. One of the things I'd struck, because they asked me to be relatively short, was also the $50,000 endowment for scholarships that we signed this semester that President Joe just mentioned. This too, one of the many, many things that she and I worked on together. Many students, by the way, from that study tour, we had our last class today, are here with us today. They met Gail. They obviously didn't have the great joy and benefit of traveling with Gail, but I'm really happy that they did meet her and understand what an important contribution they made to their education and to Stockton. Gail's passing leaves a really gaping void at Stockton, and also in my world personally. Of all of my wonderful colleagues, and there's so many, no one cared more about the well-being of students, especially those students in need. I can't tell you how often Gail called me, asked me to intervene, to make a call, to meet with a student who was in financial or academic distress, needed help, needed a hand. And I'm sure, once again, as I look out, that many of you, my colleagues out there in the audience, had exactly the same experience multiple times. My sadness at the loss of our dear friend is deep, but it's also assuaged by the knowledge of the enduring legacy that Gail has left us. The Holocaust Resource Center, really her life's work, is strong. It's just completed, and we heard some of the specifics from President Bertolino, has just completed a major expansion, new Holocaust Resource Center classroom, and the Holocaust Survivors of South Jersey research room are just the latest additions to the Holocaust Resource Center. The Holocaust Resource Center Executive Committee acknowledged several years ago her indispensable role in building over the past decades the center when they named the original room in the center the Gail Hirsch Rosenthal Room in her honor, something that she, in her modesty, really was not looking for and really didn't want, but which I think was very fitting. And I'm glad that we pushed that through. Scholarships for students with an interest in Holocaust and genocide studies are now at an all-time high. Much of that is Gail's doing, not only to get the donors to provide that funding, it was her relationships that made that possible, but I can't tell you how equally important it is that she constantly pushes students, reminds them that they have to apply for those scholarships, and that financial support through those scholarships has really meant a lot to really a generation of students, and I'm glad to know that that support is going to continue for the foreseeable future in a robust way. Most importantly, if less tangible, are the many ways that Gail enriched us all. Directly, through her generosity of spirit and her empathy, but also indirectly through the lives that she touched, the many lives that she touched, the students she mentored, the examples that she provided of a life well lived. Her greatest legacy, I think, is really the model that she set for all of us to care for others, and in doing so, to make the world just a little bit better in any way that we can. Individuals do make a difference, was one of the messages that she preached. Gail embodied that Judaic concept of tikkun olam, to the imperative to repair and improve the world. That's a challenge that I will live up to, that I will strive to live up to in the time that I have left at Stockton and also on this earth. I think that is one of Gail's greatest legacies, and it's the way that we can best honor and remember it. So thank you very much, and goodbye, Gail.
Thank you, Michael, for those heartfelt thoughts. And you should know how much Gail not only loved you, but thought of you as an educator and as a professional. She was so proud of your work, and you need to keep that really in your mind. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Rona Kaplan, who is not only a good friend of Gail's, but is a very active and important member of the Executive Committee of the Resource Center. Rona?
I said it before, and I'll say it again. Gail Hirsch Rosenthal was a giant. Goliath was a giant. According to the Bible, he was 9 cubits and a span tall, 10 foot 10 inches. Goliath was so strong he could wear bronze armor that was 120 tons. Hercules was a giant. He had superhuman strength. He strangled 2 snakes and a lion. He slayed the 9-headed Hydra. He held up the heavens temporarily for Atlas. Gail didn't slay any lions. She wasn't 10 foot 10, and she didn't wear armor. But Gail moved mountains. Gail's partnership with Michael Hayes, Professor Michael Hayes, as you just heard, is well known. It's envied, and it will never be replicated. Together, Gail and Professor Hayes planned 13 overseas trips. Students did not pay the full price of those trips. Everyone was subsidized. She was an educator, as an educator, she wanted her students to see there was a world outside of the Stockton bubble. But in order to subsidize those trips so those students could afford it, Gail moved mountains. She might have solicited you, or you, or you, but she was not too proud to raise money for her students to see the world. Her commitment to her students was unwavering. She occasionally drove students to visit graduate schools. She made telephone calls to people she knew to help them get into graduate schools. She called people she didn't know to help her students get into graduate schools. And every conversation started the same way. I wouldn't do this for my own daughter, but, and she would go on to move mountains. Gail made things happen. Students with problems always found Gail. Either they found her, or maybe because of her intuition, she found them. The student living in a car. The student who didn't have money to buy food. The student who couldn't graduate because she couldn't pay the last amount of tuition. Gail did not rest until she found the student a place to live, the student money for food, and was able to somehow erase that tuition due from that student's bill. Lumberjack Paul Bunyan had superhuman powers. He was so tall, he towered over trees. He created 10,000 lakes in Minnesota by his footprint, and he created the Grand Canyon by pulling his axe behind him. Gail didn't create the Minnesota lakes or the Grand Canyon, but she conceived of projects that ensured that her survivors lived forever. Gail made things happen. Her commitment to her survivors was paramount. Walk into the Gail Hirsch Rosenthal room at the center, and you'll see the walls lined with bigger-than-life photographs of smiling survivors. Those photos were taken by Stockton students. Gail conceived of that project. She personally contributed to the funding of that project. She enlisted Guggenheim Award-winning photographer Professor Wendell White to head up that project. The photos are dazzling. The survivors in that room will be celebrated and live forever. Gail had the foresight to hire Professor Mary Ann McLaughlin, who edited and assisted our survivors publish over 60 memoirs. I remember when she hired Dr. McLaughlin, I said, Gail, you don't need a PhD. You need someone to lick envelopes. But Gail knew she needed Dr. McLaughlin. Gail wasn't too proud to lick her own envelopes. And because of Gail's foresight, those 60 memoirs are published. And those survivors, too, like the ones that adorn the walls, those survivors will live forever. Honor thy father and thy mother, the fifth commandment. Kuved is a Yiddish word. It means respect, honor, dignity. Gail gave her survivors the same kuved she gave her own parents, brightening their lives, particularly when their adult children didn't live nearby, providing programs such as the famous or infamous Jewish Family Service luncheons, providing transportation, calling to say hello, providing holiday meals. Gail wove her way into the fabric of people's lives because of her values, because of her consistent caring, her empathy, her energy, her humility, because she emphasized good, not evil, because she lit the way so we could emulate her behavior and educate students about the power of caring, because she opened doors, she formed partnerships, she broke down the myths of fear of the other. Gail was struck as she was leaving Stockton Friday, November 6th. The next morning, Saturday, November 7th, Hamas attacked Israel. In the weeks that followed, as the war morphed into anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, we asked, what would Gail have done? Although she went to college in the 60s, Gail was not a marcher. There are no placards hidden in her basement. She was not a politician. She was not an orator. Gail was an educator. And Irvin Rodriguez Marino knew what Gail would do. He quickly scheduled a workshop to be given by Sister Carol Rittner, learning from the Holocaust. Education was what Gail believed would change the world. We are all educators, whether by choice or not. We teach by example. Students watch us, children watch us, neighbors watch us, co-workers and family watch us. We will set an example. We will embrace the other. We will telegraph that we do not fear the other, that we respect the others. Teachers, educate one more student. Teachers, educate one more teacher. Teachers, educate your extended family and your neighbors. Because, friends, Gail's legacy is in our hands. The legacy of the Sara and the Sam Schoffer Holocaust Center is in our hands. The civility and humanity of our nation is in our hands. Gail showed us the way.
Thank you, Rona, for those beautiful words and for that insightful message into the, as we say in Yiddish, the neshama, the soul of Gail Rosenthal. You really expressed it well. We now invite Dr. Sharon Musher to the podium, who is a associate professor of historical studies, and who worked closely with Gail.
Thank you. The darkness of this moment threatens to engulf the hostages, the deaths, the displacement, the rising anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and misogyny. Just as hope seems most obscure, the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah reminds us of the miracle when a small amount of oil in a reconsecrated temple managed to burn for 8 days. Gail Hirsch Rosenthal, who loved this holiday, as Toby told us again this evening, also embodied it. She cast a small but fierce light wherever she went. She also taught some lessons that might help us to continue to spread her light even in her absence. Lesson number 1, everyone deserves to be recognized. There was never a time that I walked into the Holocaust Resource Center without being introduced and reintroduced to staff, even those I had known for years, and of course to students. Did I know this one majored in literature and maybe they needed an H subscript? In acknowledging everyone in the room, Gail helped people to see one another. Lesson number 2. Institutional knowledge is power. Gail was the first person I went to when I learned that a student was unhoused, food insecure, or undocumented. She knew whom to call and what to say. She knew how to find support for those who were vulnerable, and the support she found wasn't just for the day or even the year. When she committed to someone or something, she found ways to sustain them for the lengths of time they needed, including years. Lesson number 3, we are stronger together. When I started meeting regularly with Gail, it was often around Jewish life at Stockton. But Gail never had a provincial view of that. She always looked to foster communication and connection across groups. One of her oft-told stories was about the time people across the university came together to protest the appearance of a swastika on a Stockton wall. Lesson number 4, if you can, give. Evidence of Gail's generosity was everywhere. She might have been the last person who still carried cash to pay for her morning coffee from Dunkin' Donuts so that she would be able to tell the server to keep the change. And I know that because I was often on the phone when she was doing that run. She bought Wawa cards for students, insisted that she found them or someone gave them to her, and would ask again if you couldn't use it. Finally, lesson number 5, don't forget to celebrate. She knew when people had babies, when they had life cycle events, when they lost a parent, and when they struggled. She made people feel known by recognizing their moments of pain and joy. In Pirkei Avot, translated as Ethics of Our Fathers, Rabbi Tarfon is recorded as having taught, "It is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you free to abandon it." Gail's legacy and lessons are now in our hands, to echo Rona's language. Despite the depths of the world's grief, we are tasked with keeping alight its possibility. May we remember the example Gail set. May each of our small and vulnerable flickerings create enough luminosity and warmth to sustain us and show us new paths forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon, for those beautiful comments. As you've heard, the most important thing for Gail at Stockton was the students. It was all about the students. In fact, she took on the Stockton mantra, which is students first. So it's only appropriate that our next speaker be an undergraduate student, Maya Vaughn. Maya?
Thank you, Leo. Hello, everybody. Before I begin, I was an intern for Gail my first semester at Stockton. An undeniable and everlasting source of light in each and every one of our lives. Gail served not only as a mentor to me, but a campus bubby. For those of you that may not know, bubby means grandmother in Yiddish. Rather than trying to capture Gail with words today and adjectives, which is quite hard to do, as I'm sure we all know, I'll give an example of who Gail is as an individual through a brief anecdote. When I first came to Stockton, my experience was illuminated by Gail. I transferred here from Brandeis University, a Jewish institution. As you can imagine, this absolutely delighted Gail. Immediately, Gail questioned why I would come to Stockton after being at a Jewish school. This is something she absolutely could not comprehend. She eventually did. This decision to transfer was not a voluntary one. My father was very sick, and I had to be close to home. In a matter of minutes, I could feel the warmth and comfort from Gail. Despite hardly knowing her at the point, by the way, this was day one. I confided in Gail and shared with her the news of my father. Knowing that I was struggling, Gail immediately picked up the phone and started making phone calls to anyone and everyone that she knew, services that would help my father. I was so incredibly touched that on my first day in a brand new place, I found someone that truly felt like home. This was the first, but certainly not the last time that Gail sat me down and somehow found a way to completely calm my nerves. Gail showed me that coming here was by no means a setback, but an incredible opportunity to learn and grow. I can say with full certainty that I am not the only person in this room who has had a similar experience to this. With Gail. Gail turned my darkness into light, and for that I will be forever thankful. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya, for sharing those personal thoughts with us. I don't want to embarrass someone, but when we speak about Gail and her relationship with students, I remember the story about Gail's meeting a student at Atlantic City High School. And the student told her that he was unable to go to college because he didn't have the funds or the resources. He was going to work in a restaurant washing dishes. Gail wouldn't have this, so she immediately went to work and helped that student not only gain admission to Stockton, but also to obtain the financing necessary to pay for that education. And today that student is the interim director of the Holocaust Resource Center, Irvin Moreno Rodriguez. I want you to know that Irvin has picked up for Gail as best he could in a difficult situation, in a difficult time in the history of the world, and has done a remarkable job. And on behalf of Gail, I'd like to thank you for help organizing today's event. Thank you, Irvin. Our next speaker is a friend of mine, Dr. Judith Vogel, also a good friend of Gail's, a professor in mathematics who incidentally also happens to be the coordinator of Holocaust and genocide studies as a minor. Let's call on Dr. Judy Vogel.
Hello, everyone. Shining a light in the darkness. Rosenthal family, I can think of no more beautiful or fitting tribute for Gail Rosenthal. It's something I think we all aspire to. And yet for Gail, it was always more than an aspiration. It wasn't just a wish or a hope for the future. For Gail, it was an action, a constant and consistent action. And it wasn't always big. Her life's work was centered on bringing light into darkness in a very profound and meaningful way. But it was also a part of who Gail was in small, quiet, interpersonal ways. I can't believe I just used quiet to describe your mom, Toby, but I did. Gail was my colleague. She was my friend. She was often my surrogate mother. But most importantly, she was my teacher. From the first day I met Gail to the very last conversation I had with her, she was a teacher who understood the importance of being a lifelong mentor to their students. She gave me many, many gifts in that role of mentor. She supported and nurtured a passion for Holocaust studies in a student that was far outside the traditional discipline. We could talk about calculus if you prefer. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that she gave me opportunity to learn and grow and mature, both as a student and later as a colleague. This was an amazing part of who Gail was. I actually had the great honor of being one of the first interns, do you know the story I'm going to tell, Toby? At the Holocaust Resource Center, alongside my husband, my then boyfriend, Frank. And I'll never forget, this was the semester Gail took me aside and gave me some very sage advice. It's advice, now you know the story, right? It's advice that I think back to even now, and it went something like this. Maybe you don't marry this one. You hear it, right? Something that she says she could never say to students today, but back in those days, 30 years ago, it was okay. 30 years later, and 3 beautiful daughters, I am pretty sure it is the absolute only time she's ever admitted to being wrong. Although there's mornings I wake up and I think, maybe I should have listened. Please don't tell my husband he wasn't able to be here today. We both love her very much, as well as those 3 beautiful daughters. One of the greatest gifts that Gail gave me was an introduction to this amazing community. A community that has supported me and embraced me since I was 18 years old. When I heard of Gail's passing, it hit me intrinsically. It affected me personally and professionally. And yet, when I look at this audience, I see reflected in the faces of this community whom I love, the spirit and the legacy of Gail Rosenthal. And for that, I am forever grateful. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. All I can say is that Stockton is lucky to have you, and the Holocaust Center is lucky to have you as well. You can't think of the Holocaust Resource Center's development and growth without remembering Dr. Vera King Farris. One of the very special things that she did was create the Ida E. King Distinguished Professor Program in honor of her late mother. A wonderful, wonderful program that brought many national and international Holocaust scholars here to Stockton University and truly helped our growth and development and created for this university tentacles that spread out throughout the world. In 1999 and 2000, we were fortunate to have, as the Ida E. King Scholar, Dr. Michael Birnbaum, who today is an international scholar and highly recognized professor in the field. Gail would always turn to Michael for advice and direction, and Michael always gave Gail the right answer. We're pleased to have with us today, he flew in today from California to be with us, Dr. Birnbaum.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Leo. In a very real sense, we've told one story. The one story has been told by many different angles and many different perspectives, but it's one story because what you saw in Gail was one person who had not falsehood to her, but a deep and a profound truth, and who was the same to everyone, no matter what their stature, no matter where they came from, no matter what they did. I've been privileged to know Gail for a little bit longer than Michael Hayes. And I had the privilege of working with her in many different ways at many different times. But I want to tell you that no one I have worked with in this field has had greater influence on her institution, on her community, and most importantly, on her students than Gail Rosenthal. I travel all over the world, and I've seen Holocaust educators throughout the universe. And I've seen people of enormous dedication, but I've never seen someone who has had quite the impact of Gail. And the impact comes not so much from her scholarship or her learning. It comes from the deepest part of a human being, from her soul, from her essence. Some people have jobs. Gail had a calling. She was indefatigable. Anybody who worked with her and understood they would get calls at any hour of the day and night. Anybody who worked with her understood that they would be asked to do many different things. She was dedicated, she was determined, she gave it all. And the more she gave, the more she grew, and the more she became. She taught us by giving, you get, and you grow, you mature, you develop. Her students had to have every opportunity to hear her utter the words, first Richard Stockton College and then Stockton University, was to hear in her voice a certain measure of poetry. Her students had to have every single opportunity, and one forgot that this was a state university, and one forgot that this was a university in which many of her students were not students of privilege, but students who are the first in their family to go to college, the first in their family to get an education, but they had to have every single opportunity. When the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum was about to open, I got a call that we needed not a tour, but a special tour. And even though the building was closed, it had to be open. And the reason was that Stockton students were coming. And by the way, could she also bring members of the community? That was Gail. Her community of Greater Atlantic City had to be included. They had to be there. We saw her do this early and often, and again and again. Just before COVID, we had an exhibition open called Auschwitz, and I want you to hear the scandal of the words. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away. That's a scandal of our world. It's a scandal of our world that gets reiterated day in and day out as we see the news. A title is so frighteningly apt at this moment of turmoil and strife. Stockton had to be there, and the greater community of southern New Jersey had to come. And the tour couldn't be any tour. The tour had to be special, unique, distinct, and we had to see everything and have the opportunity not only to visit, but also to discuss, to think, to experience, to encounter. One new film developed, and I've been involved for many years in the development of films. The film had to come to Stockton. Didn't matter if the producer wanted it to come to Stockton or didn't want it to come to Stockton. Didn't matter if it was legally shown or we won't say extra, we'll say it extra legally shown. It had to come to Stockton, and it had to be understood not only as a film but as an experience, because it offered new insights into the Holocaust and new insights into humanity. Her students, many of them first generation of their families to attend college, many of them working to afford an education, traveled to Poland, to Germany, to Lithuania, to Israel. She worked so hard to give them every opportunity to learn, to deepen their education, to expand their horizons, privileges which they uniquely never took for granted, but were extraordinary for students without abundant means, students studying at a state university. I traveled with these students. They got up early in the morning, they worked till late at night, and every moment was planned out, every moment was thought out, every opportunity was afforded them. I got a series of nicknames that I'm not sure I can repeat in public, but her students had to have everything that we could give, and she worked so beautifully with Michael Hayes. And we had the opportunity to travel not only with students, but also with the community, because for her, there was no gap between town and gown. This was her world, her community. This was a terrific place to learn, a terrific place to be, and a fabulous place to celebrate community. She was a mentor to thousands of students, assisting them in ways large and small, as we've heard, always concerned about their well-being. She began as the mother hen who looked after them again and again. She was the mother confessor and later the grandmother, the bubby, as you referred to, a title which she loved in her own grandchildren and a title which she adored in her students. And she had what bubbies have, which is an unconditional love. Just an unconditional love, an abundance of feeling. and the sense that when you were in her presence, you were wanted, you were precious, you were desired, and anything that she could help you with, she was there. That's a unique characteristic that we seldom experience. The students who worked at the Holocaust Resource Center adored her. Many have taken on her mission. Some teach, some work in museums, some pursued graduate work. All will say, I owe it to Gail Rosenthal. I have encountered Stockton students all over the country. I've encountered Stockton students in their graduate work. I've encountered Stockton students as museum docents. I've encountered them as professionals. I've encountered them as volunteers. And she has given Stockton students a precious gift, which is to transmit all that she knew and all that she was. No one cared for survivors in this community more than Gail Rosenthal, and no one was more proud of what the survivors had accomplished in southern New Jersey. Chicken farmers they began, but they had a unique legacy, and they created many wonderful things, and I'm proud to know that Michael Hayes is going to document and is documenting the story of survivors. I have read many of the memoirs, and I've seen many of these photographs, and I've experienced the survivors of southern New Jersey. I've worked with them all over the world. No one was more concerned about their memoirs, their testimonies taken and preserved, and no one was more committed that their legacy be documented, their post-Holocaust journey in America and their post-Holocaust journey here in this community in southern New Jersey. Where else did it happen? Nowhere else but in Stockton and South New Jersey. And who made it happen? Gail Rosenthal. She was, simply put, indispensable. And as Erwin said this morning when we had lunch together, she took on 3 or 4 jobs all at once, and now he's left to do 5 jobs all at once. And we have to get, and Mr. President, we have to get him help. Look at the Sara and Sam Schoffer Holocaust Resource Center, whose main room is now appropriately named in her honor. Look at the interactive exhibition in the expanded center, the extraordinary heroism of ordinary people. She worked on that exhibit. She conceived of what it should be. She insisted that not only we create something, but all of the resources of Stockton University came together to do this. She had the graphic artists. She had the film. She had the interactive people. She had the historians. She had the visual people. Using the entire university to shape an exhibition. I have created many exhibitions. This is the first one, which together with Michael Hayes was created by a university and by all of the resources of a university. And if you haven't visited that exhibition, shame on you. But it's really a spectacular exhibition that has at its core the moral value that ordinary people, in the most difficult of circumstances, can do extraordinary things. Where else did this happen? Nowhere else but Stockton, nowhere else but in southern New Jersey. And who made it happen? Gail Rosenthal. She was indispensable. She was essential. Gail would be the first to not claim credit for it. Michael Hayes did the enlisting of students, the resources of Stockton, and film and IT made it happen. Her wonderful daughter, Toby, did it with her award-winning film. There were good people doing extraordinary things. And she would give me more credit than I ever deserved, but we all knew that Gail was the quarterback. Gail was the driving force. Gail was the coach. Gail was occasionally the nudnik. but without her, it never could have happened. She was respected by colleagues in the field who can sometimes be competitive with one another, but not with Gail. The listserv of the Association of Holocaust Organizations has been singing her praises ever since word of her illness had spread. The words are inspirational, their memories priceless. I hope that Bob and Toby and your family will read them, and most especially her grandchildren will see them and understand how unique their grandmother was, how cherished, how respected, how loved. What a terrific person. What a terrific mentor. What a terrific teacher. What a terrific mother. And how easy it was to be a wonderful bubby. From Israel to Poland, from Washington, New York, from Los Angeles to Cincinnati, even from war-torn, especially from war-torn Jerusalem, words of tribute have been pouring in. However wonderful they are truly understatements. None can capture the true dimensions of her influence, the magnitude of her import, the significance of her as a model and as an inspiration. She was beloved, revered, cherished, admired, respected. I would get a call from Erwin, her wonderful student, now distinguished colleague, saying Gail was looking to speak to me. I took a call as not merely as an invitation, but frankly as a command. And I knew whenever she called, I was in for an adventure. We spoke shorthand. My answer was always yes. If Gail asked, it must be important. It must be done. And for me, Stockton is a home, dare I say, not a home away from home, but a home. And that's because of Gail. And Gail was a cherished partner, a woman I so admired, with whom I had the privilege of working professionally, and whose friendship has been one of the great gifts and one of the great joys of my life. Her life was a blessing, her memory ever more so. We shall not see the likes of Gail Rosenthal again. Yet she would be the first to say that we must carry on with greater dedication, for the cause of her life is even more urgent in this broken world. May her memory be a blessing. May her memory be an inspiration. May she remain a model of what it is to give, what it is to grow, and what it is to be dedicated to the task of mending this broken world. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for being here with us today. And it reminds me that I can't remember a special event at the Holocaust Resource Center, a dedication, an opening of a room, any event that you didn't attend and helped make more meaningful, not only by your presence, but by your comments and your perspectives. You've helped us over the years really understand what we are doing and why we do it. Thank you. As many of you know, Gail had a love of music, all kinds of music, not just Jewish music, Broadway music, other kinds of music. And so I'm pleased to introduce our dear friend.
Thank you, Leo.
To give us a little bit of music.
Appreciate that.
Dr. Beverly Vaughn.
Thank you so much. And at the keyboard is one of our most outstanding musicians in South Jersey, in New Jersey, Grammy Award-winning Luke Witherspoon, who also took classes and part of Stockton community as well. Now listen, I want everybody to pull out your paper. It says, light one candle. We're going to do 2 songs about candles because that was the theme. The light that your mom was, the light, right? We're going to do the first one, light one candle. Here we go. Are you ready? Here we go. Light one candle for the Maccabee children. Wait a minute, I'm the only one that sang. You don't know the Right, just pick up there. 1, 2, ready, and go. Don't. Okay, now we're going to stop because we're going to do it like we do in choir with our wonderful student choirs here at Stockton. Let's say the words together for the chorus. 1, 2, ready, speak, and now. Don't let. There you go. Don't let. Okay, now we're ready to sing it. 1, 2, ready, and now. Don't let. There you go. Sounds good, Gail. Here we go. Don't let. Now, before we get to our next song, we're going to divide into two. You guys are going to say, don't let. And you all will say, the light go out. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and now. Don't. Your turn again. 1. Now we're going to do the chorus one more time. We're going to ask everybody to go. Are you guys ready? Don't let the light go out. All together. You guys are going to do the don't let. Can I hear it? I don't believe it. What did you say? I don't believe it. And what are you guys going to say? I'm sorry. What are you going to say? Let's try one more. Wait a minute, I got to go over to the president. Okay. I did this to him before. Don't let what, Mr. President?
The light go out?
Oh, give me my hand. Here we go, please. Don't let the light go out. All right, here we go. 1, 2. This side is the light go out, and you're the don't let. 1, 2. With power and passion. 3, and go. Don't what? Again. Okay, and then you go on the rest of the song. 1, 2, ready, and now. And last time, what? All right, before we go to our next song, it's your turn. We want that whole row to say, don't let, and we'll answer them. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and this table, and you guys, don't let. So many years. Here we go, and next one. Very good, thank you. Don't let the light go out. But now we're going to get to a song that, thank you. Because she didn't let her light go out. But we didn't let our light go out because of the song that I love and that she loved as well. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. However, put your things down. You don't need to look at any papers, but you do need to pull out your cell phones. Pull your cell phones out and turn on the light. Put your, you have a cell phone. Put your cell phone on and turn, there you go. We're beginning to see the lights. We're beginning to see the lights. We're beginning to see the lights. Is there any way to turn the lights down in the room? I don't know. But we're beginning to see the lights. I love it. I love it. Where's your light? Here we go. Everybody got a light. Turn your light on. Turn your light on and wave that light because we're going to sing this little light of mine. Everybody wave that light. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine. What are you going to do, everybody? Yes. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. All right, now, here's what we're going to say. Listen. Just like Gail did it, I'm going to. Just like Gail did it. What you going to do? I'm going to let it shine. Just like Gail did it. Let it shine. Let it shine. All right, now the last thing I'd like you to do, I'd like everybody to stand up and to really wave it back and forth. Really wave it back and forth. Are you ready, Christina? Wave it back and forth. Here we go. We're going to let, if you can, let that light shine. Here we go. 1, 2, ready. This little light. it. Let it. You don't say shine yet. Let it. Now, get ready for shine. Get ready to hold it up real high. Get ready to wave it. Shine. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're going to let that light shine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Beverly.
You're welcome, Leo.
Nobody brings energy into the room like Beverly Vaughn. Let's hear it for Beverly.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Let it shine.
A very special person at Stockton. There was a point I wanted to make earlier, but the president stepped out of the room, so I was waiting for him to come back, and thank you for coming back. And that is that Dr. Michael Birnbaum is an example of the Ida E. King Scholar Program. And he is the reason, he's an example, pardon me, of the reason why we need to bring it back. And I know that President Joe has indicated to me, and I'd like to share it with you if I may, that he is trying to find ways to bring back that distinguished scholarship program or something hopefully like it. And we thank you for that, President. You've heard earlier about Gail's commitment to the Holocaust survivors in our community. And there were many in our community. There are several people here, friends of mine. I see Mona and I see others whose parents were Holocaust survivors like my parents. And Gail took it upon herself to not only help them in many ways that they needed help, but also to make them feel valued and to make them feel important. And that is something that is hard to do to someone who was a victim of the Shoah. So no program celebrating the life of Gail can be complete without the testimony of a survivor. And unfortunately, we've lost in this community many of our survivors and most of our survivors. But because of Stockton University, we've been able to keep their stories and legacies alive through the publication of memoirs and books and through the production of interviews. And much of that happened to the credit of Gail. So let me now introduce a dear friend of Gail's, Maud Dami, a Holocaust survivor and a member of the New Jersey Commission on Holocaust Education. Maud.
Thank you so much. I am really going to read a letter to the family of Gail Hirsch Rosenthal. It is with a heavy heart that I offer my sincere condolences to your family as you mourn the passing of your beloved Gail. Gail will forever be remembered for her kindness, compassion, and advocacy. As director of the Sara and Sam Schoffer Holocaust Resource Center at Stockton University, Gail expanded the center's Holocaust education program through her connections with survivors and the local community. She was also a beacon of hope for students, often reaching out to ask for assistance with any hardship they were facing. Gail truly exemplified a life of leadership, and she was treasured by her loved ones, friends, and the entire Stockton community. Though I know that no words may be enough to encapsulate the depth of the loss that you now face, always know that Gail's tireless spirit of kindness will live on through the example she set as a beloved wife, mother, sister, and grandmother. She will be missed. My very best, Philip D. Murphy, Governor of the State of New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you, Maude. And also thank you for all that you have done for the education of Holocaust studies in New Jersey. I know this has been a lifelong passion of yours, and you've been successful with it, and we can't thank you enough. At this time, I'd like to introduce Gail's beloved daughter, Toby, who's going to have some tributes and who's going to invite some of you to stand up and provide some comments as well. Toby?
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I know Gail, again, would have loved every second of all of us being together, and especially on this first night of Hanukkah. I am going to pass the microphone, so to speak, to anyone, and I invite anyone who would like to come up and say a few words. Because of the hour, we know some of our students have had to go to class. Some of the faculty and staff who have come to join us who teach also, they've had to go as well. But those of you who are here, we invite you to come up and share a few words about Gail if you feel moved to. And please do. Dean Gregg, is that you? Sure. Come. Okay. We passed the microphone. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I originally was on the program, but I looked down the speakers and I saw such a plethora of amazing speakers who had much more to say than I did and who knew Gail better than I did. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to add anything, or I thought I wouldn't be able to add anything to what they had to say, because it was, from the top, an amazing set of speeches, and I want to thank everyone for them. But there was one word that occurred to me as we were going along, probably came to while Beverly was performing for us. And that's the story that Gail always told me about growing up, and where she grew up was in upstate New York. And the strong Jewish community there that's very much involved in performing arts, and just there's just a lot of artists up there that she had as an inspiration. And so one word that I wanted to add, and in a way it's fitting that Bev's here because she's obviously in the same mold, maybe a different stratosphere. The word is impresario. She was an impresario. She brought northern upstate New York down here and made a performance out of everything, and built this with such joy and such desire to create. It was just a wonderful thing to work with her, because you didn't quite know what was going to come next, but it was always good. It was always very good. And she will be incredibly missed. And I want to thank her for all that she did for me, but for everyone that she went out of her way to help. So thanks very much.
Mr. Ullman. Yeah, Mr. Ullman.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I am the other Leo in the crowd, I think. And like the other Leo, my experience with Gail is a little bit different. I have known and loved Gail for probably 45 years. I knew her before this eminent organization was created as the Schoffer Holocaust Center. It started at the Shore Mall 100 years ago or so. Some of you may remember the Shore Mall. I was a co-owner of that mall long, long ago, and we had a Jackie Robinson exhibit. And Gail Rosenthal came down and said that Jackie Robinson is really terrific, but we need an Anne Frank exhibit. So we got an Anne Frank exhibit at the Shore Mall, and that became part of my relationship with Gail, which is to have known Gail as the world's greatest nudge. She would, and Leo would know this also, I think, she would nudge you into stratospheres that you never expected to reach. If you offered to Gail to give her a book, suddenly you had to give 3,000 books. If you were going to have a trip to Holland for whatever reason, you had to meet 40 students there. And on it goes. She could make you do anything, and as you heard, we once wanted to give something of the history of the people who saved my life during World War II, and suddenly we had a room at Stockton University. We were going to create a small picture, and suddenly we had a 23-minute film at Stockton. Stockton and Gail were so fantastic. You heard it all, but to me, she was the ultimate, most wonderful nudge, and she was so good at it. So thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Marcia Bronstein. I'm the Regional Director of American Jewish Committee, Philadelphia, Southern New Jersey region. And we had a wonderful partnership with Gail and the Holocaust Resource Center. And I look forward to continuing that connection. We did programming together, and our research on anti-Semitism is something that we used to show consequences and show that, the Holocaust is a result of that. And I bring greetings from the many friends that Gail made through American Jewish Committee, and we'll miss her.
Hi everyone, my name is Jared. I'm an undergraduate student here at Stockton. I've only met Gail a very few times early on in my Stockton career. I'm also now the president of the Stockton Hello Jewish Student Union here on campus, and been very involved within the Jewish student community as well as the overall Jewish community back at home. Gail, hearing from each and every one of you, is a very influential person. I would like to describe her as a beacon of light in the darkness of times that we have currently. With Gail's emotional respect for the Stockton students, faculty, she has just been the epicenter of not only Stockton, but as well as the Resource Center and the Jewish community as a whole. Noam Katz is a contemporary Jewish musician, and one of his songs is Roll Into Dark. And I just want to read off a phrase in Hebrew and leave you off with something to think about. Borei Yom V'Layla, Golel or Mipnei Choshech, V'Choshech or Mipnei Or. Creator of day and light, rolling light into darkness and darkness into light. Zikrana Livracha, may Gail's memory be for a blessing now and always.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Rawl. I graduated with a minor in Holocaust and Genocide in December 2010 and my master's in December 2013. I did do my internship with Gail in 2013, and I have two things I want to read, which I shared on Facebook. One is just a silly little thing. The other one is what I wrote about when I found out about her passing. So the first little thing is, it was 13 years ago on December 1st. I said, I have $1.25 of Hanukkah candy. Now, I know where I would have gotten that from. The only person who would have given it to me at that time was Gal. And after seeing her pass away, that just brought a smile to my face, thinking of her. The other thing I'm going to read is, like I said, I lost it. What I wrote on Facebook when I found out about her passing. The local Jewish community and the Holocaust and genocide prevention community has lost an amazing advocate. I still remember the first time meeting her at a Thanksgiving students and factory dinner. My date introduced us. At that point, I was already doing research on Darfur and considering taking some classes. So Gail has helped Stockton become a powerhouse in the newer than not field of Holocaust and genocide studies, which help us understand the inclusive studies. The university has the most undergraduate Holocaust and genocide classes in the world. She has helped being influenced all over the community and the world. Yet, to me, she is Mother Gail. She was someone who always there to help guide you, both academically and personally. Numerous times she has been a reference for me in jobs. I send my love and prayers to her family, and I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ann Bullen, and I'm on the executive committee of the Sara and Sam Schoffer Holocaust Resource Center. My mother-in-law was Marcia Grossman, who was one of the founders of the Resource Center, and I remember the pride with which she showed myself and Mark at the very beginning of the center when it was still sort of that closet with a couple of the tapes that they were made. Yes, and I am so grateful for hearing all these different words about Gail, because I have known her in different ways throughout the years, and everything that was said was absolutely accurate. Absolutely accurate. And she had an effect on all of our lives in different ways. I'm sort of disappointed that I thought my relationship with her was so unique, but of course she had that relationship with all of you. And that's really such a beautiful thing. And she touched our family in so many ways that were outside of the Resource Center itself. She helped educate me about help my children get to colleges and this, that, and the other. She read one of our son's first letters to get into admission, and she said, "And I think you could write about something else." And I always trusted her judgment because it was 100% correct, and she really was sort of another mother in our lives, and we miss her desperately, and I am so glad to be able to just share that feeling we have about her with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rabbi Abby Michaleski. I met Gail approximately, 20, 25 years ago when I was the rabbi of Bethel Synagogue, Congregation Bethel in Hamilton, New Jersey. And the synagogue, sadly, we closed at some point during COVID. And we last year, throughout this past year, we sold the building in Hamilton. It was a beautiful, quaint little building, and took the proceeds from that sale and divided it up among we established 3 different foundations. And one of them, we made a donation to Stockton University for a student that I think minors in Holocaust and genocide studies. And the reason that donation was made was partly because of the importance of Holocaust education. It's so very, very important, especially to me, as well as to our community, but because of my relationship with Gail. I knew how, because of her passion and her dedication, and I knew that and their commitment to students and to education, that the donation and the foundation would be well managed and well served, and I'm so grateful to have known her and miss her. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. You know what? When Dr. Greg talked about impresario, I realized I didn't say anything about Gail. 3 consecutive times, everybody. 3 consecutive times, thanks to Gail. Wendell White, we heard his name, other professors from our theater department, and I were able to go to Arad, Israel, the sister city, I think it's the sister city of Margaret or something like that. We were able to go there and present programs. But let's talk about the impresario. Thanks to Gail, the musical presentation packed out the community center. It was wonderful because of the impresario, Gail, but what it did for me, what it did for my experience that I was able to bring back to our students, that goes back to Gail and her relationship with faculty and staff. Thank you, Gail, for that light. Just keep it shining. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Bev. You know, how do you follow up on that enthusiasm, really? Everyone, this has been an amazing evening, and my name is Mary Lou Galantino. And I want to start off by saying the advocacy that Gail has provided in the area of Holocaust survivorship is something that we shared in a very different way of survivorship. I'm not sure if many of you knew, but Gail was an amazing, valiant cancer survivor twice. I, too, am a cancer survivor. And it's very interesting to bond on that deep survivorship in a very, very different way. And when we met and connected on that survivorship, the essence of sisterhood was absolutely deepened, and she was a support of many of the research work that we did in Atlantic City to support our yoga-based research for cancer survivors. She interfaced with our doctoral physical therapy students. This woman, while we think we have heard it all, I'm going to tell you that she infiltrated cancer survivorship organizations that actually made a difference in quality of life and fostered the research that our doctoral physical therapy students have endeavored. So I want to point out the sisterhood of survivorship of a bit of a different kind. And I am so grateful that I had the honor and the privilege to travel in her journey in a way that you want to see valiant commitment to living life fully. Many of us in this room may not have known that. I asked Toby for permission to share that. So she really is a true survivor at the highest kind. And lastly, on behalf of the Doctoral Physical Therapy Program and the School of Health Sciences, Gail single-handedly created a different generation of healthcare professionals when she had them meet Holocaust survivors, my students. Our students got to hear the stories of what to do and not to do in a hospital setting, in an outpatient clinic, and in the community. So Gail's reach is beyond measure. I think we could be here for another couple of hours, but I'm going to let others speak. I want to thank you all for listening to the theme of survivorship of the highest kind. Sister Gail, to her family, the mark is indelible. I love you all. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Elaine Recknick-Lyons, and I am representing my sister Alice Recknick-Kamen, who could not be here this evening. She lives in Maryland, and she had a terrible cold. But I wanted to say that Gail was extremely instrumental in having my mother write her book, Try to Survive and Tell the World. And we lost her in 2006, unfortunately. But she was quite a pistol, and she wrote a wonderful book with Gail's help, and I just wanted to thank her.
I'm sorry. My name is Max. I'm a senior here at Stockton, and I'm on the e-boards for Chabad and Hillel, our Jewish organizations. And as Jared did, I wanted to kind of briefly speak on the impact that Gail Rosenthal had on Jewish Stockton students and Stockton students in general. I always wondered, and I asked the rabbi, I think a few months back, shortly before her passing, around the holiday of Sukkot. We have this beautiful sukkah on campus every year. It's probably the largest sukkah I've seen on a college campus, and I always wondered who started that tradition. And he told me, Gail Rosenthal. And I was like, wow, that's incredible that she did that. A few months ago, I'm in the Jewish Stories and Storytelling class with Marcia Fiedler, who's here tonight. And we got the opportunity to visit the Holocaust Resource Center and get the chance to ask questions to I think it's AI or automated something screen of a Holocaust survivor. And it was a really moving experience. And whenever I walk into the Resource Center, I could really tell the love that she put into it, and the love that she puts into all her staff and to all the students who walk into the Resource Center. And I think her impact is really felt when Marcia told me of her stroke and later of her death. I realized that there was such a great loss. That was such a great loss to Stockton, and I think I and all students at Stockton owe a lot to her for the community she's built and the impact she's had on Jewish life on campus and the many lives she's touched.
At this time, just permit me a minute or so of some closing remarks, if I may. Firstly, on behalf of Gail's family and Stockton University, I'd like to thank everyone who participated in today's program. Thank you all. I'd also like to share something that was spoken of at Gail's funeral. This is the belief that a human being passes this life on two occasions. The first moment is the passing of one's physical being. Then the second moment is when one's legacy and memory are forgotten and no longer spoken of or remembered. As you've heard from our speakers today, the second moment will not occur for many years, if not many generations. This is because of the remarkable legacy Gail has left for us here at Stockton University. On a personal note, I had the pleasure of speaking with Gail probably 3 or 4 times each week, and we spoke about many topics, but I could expect to hear 2 things. Firstly, Gail would always want to share with me some good news about Stockton and the center, which Gail knew would always make my day, and she felt that she needed to do that. And secondly, she would invoke the words of her grandmother by saying something like, as my grandmother would say, and then she went on. These words helped Gail express her upbringing, and they forged a special bond between Gail and myself. Many people have asked us how they can honor Gail's memory and legacy. If we could ask Gail, I'm certain she would say, by always treating others with kindness. Well, we'll do that, but in addition to that thought, We are also creating an endowment in Gail's name with the Stockton University Foundation. This endowment will help continue Gail's work through special student programming. The foundation has a table here tonight if you'd like more information on that endowment. In conclusion, Gail Hirsch Rosenthal was a true woman of valor. May her memory always be a blessing for her family and for all of us. Thank you again. Safe travels home and have a happy holiday season. Thank you.